Hey, welcome to the Blind Betty podcast, where we tell life inside the mess and not after it's been cleaned up. Today's episode is about the name, Blind Betty. But more than that, it's about how a name can carry history, how it can evolve, and how sometimes it becomes a way to survive. Because Blind Betty didn't start with blindness, it started with building. Before snowboards, before factories, before the Olympic stage, there was my basement. I grew up around woodworking tools. And as a kid, I would stand on a milk crate just to reach the workbench, using a jigsaw to cut wooden puzzles, learning how to guide a blade without forcing it. My sister and I didn't have a lemonade stand at the end of our road. We sold furniture. Janky little kid furniture, but still furniture. Woodworking wasn't a hobby in our house, it was a language. My grandfather was an engineer who built wooden canoes and doll houses. Patient, precise understanding how wood wants to move. My father, also an engineer. He taught me how to use the tools in the basement, how to respect them, how to slow down, and how to feel your way through a build instead of overpowering it. So when I later found myself working with wood for a living, it didn't feel random. It felt inherited. There's another layer that I didn't fully understand until much later. Decades before me, my uncle worked for Burton Snowboards. And at that time, I didn't realize how rare that was. It was just another part of the family background. And then one day, as I was sitting with my grandmother, going through our old family photo albums, you know, the kind that are thick pages and plastic sleeves, time just frozen in photographs. And suddenly I saw a familiar face, Craig Kelly. I remember blurting out, completely confused, "What is Craig Kelly doing in our family photo album?" My grandmother, she just smiled and started telling stories about when they went to Mount Hood, and my grandfather, a photographer, would stand on the side of the half pipe taking photos of my uncle and Craig riding together. My grandmother would be sitting at the base lodge having lunch with Craig's first wife, Kelly Jo Kelly. They weren't legends, they were memories from our family. And if you grew up with snowboarding in the 80s, you'd understand this immediately. Craig Kelly wasn't just a rider, he was the rider. Style, presence, and a way of moving that changed the sport. He pushed snowboarding forward, and not just with tricks, but with intention and development. Those of us who grew up watching him didn't just admire him. We pretended and moved our bodies to be like him. I used to wear oversized, bright yellow snowboard pants just so I could look like him on the slopes. And suddenly I realized something that stopped me cold. I hadn't just found snowboarding. I had grown up inside its orbit. I spent 13 years working for Burton Snowboards as a prototype engineer, specifically in the wood core room. That space felt like home. Hands-on, material-driven, solving problems through feel and not ego. Back then, Mark McMorris was the first rider to ever get on the first core that I built. And when he tested that board, a brand new core entered the line. It didn't have a name quite yet, so I got to title it with my initials. When I first got the job, we were designing the Olympic boards for the 2018 team riders. And during the 2018 Winter Olympics, I gave my family and my father a tour of the shop. I walked them through the presses, the cores, the room where decades of basement lessons had quietly led. And at 35 years old, for the first time in my life, I heard him say, "I'm proud of you." That moment didn't just validate my career, it closed a loop. There's one more piece that matters here. I was the first woman to build snowboards for Craig Kelly Prototype Facility at Burton Snowboards. Just think about that for just a second. A kid on a milk crate, family photo albums, and a rider that I admired. And there I was, hands on the material, building boards in a space that carried his name. That's not coincidence. That's inheritance. As I record this episode, we are in the middle of the Winter Olympic Games again. My social media feed is full of big air, half pipe, and slope style. And I can only watch for about 30 seconds at a time, because this is the last time I'll see the boards I built on that stage. And this time, it feels like a goodbye. 2026 feels like a chapter closing, and this is where Betty comes in. Before Blind Betty, there was Powder Betty. I managed a snowboard shop in my small town of Vermont. I rode every day, I worked all day. I lived in the apartment above the shop. I knew every local, every tourist, and every line on the mountain. One season, the resort asked me to write a personal article for their magazine, one that the guests would read during their vacations. It was titled, "Diary of a Powder Betty." Guests would read it and come down to the shop and would start conversations. A Betty, confident, capable, magnetic. And powder? Well, that's 12 inches of fresh snow or more. The name fit my life then. At 24, I was diagnosed with retinitis pigmentosa. And I want to be honest, that moment wasn't dramatic. It came with frustrations. Little moments like missing the counter when putting my coffee down and watching it spill everywhere. Running straight into the chair, sitting in the middle of the room, or tripping over the dog while walking down the hallway. And early on, instead of letting those moments swallow me, I started calling them out. Whoop, Blind Betty moment. It was humor, but it was also survival. Laughing took the sting out of the humility. It let me release the discomfort instead of holding on to it and carrying it. Because blindness has a way of making people feel tense, and I didn't want to live in that tension, mine or anyone else's. Calling myself out first softened the moment and gave me control. What started as a joke became acknowledgement without shame. And even now, I still say it. I bump into something or miss a step or knock something over and, oh, Blind Betty moment. And I keep going. One summer, on a week hiking on the long trail up towards Canada, and if you've ever been hiking long distance like this, you'll know the rule. You earn a trail name. You don't choose it. The people hiking with me adapted naturally. They left arrows in the dirt with sticks or hung ribbons in the trees at intersections, guiding me forward. When we checked into the shelters and cabins, they called me Blind Betty. By then, the name didn't feel heavy. It felt familiar. Blind Betty didn't erase Powder Betty. She grew out of her. She holds the basement tools and the family photo albums, the Olympic boards, and the pride that took 35 years to build. The name isn't about what I lost. It's about what was passed down and what I'm still building. This is Blind Betty, where we tell life inside the mess. So thanks for being here. So thanks for being here.